Hi, it's me, Tim Dodd, the Everyday Astronaut. We're back. It's another launch attempt of Starliner this morning, and frankly, I want this thing to launch today because it looks like it's a beautiful morning. They're not really working any big missions or any big issues right now. Sorry. This is one that I've been waiting to see for 8 years. So hope you guys can hear me okay, 5x5 and everything. Give me a thumbs up if everything's going all right. But let's do what we normally do at the beginning of these live streams, which is we're going to start off with a pre-launch preview. Let me know if everything's going okay. All right, cool. Sounds like you guys have me. Awesome. All right, let's start off with a pre-launch preview of what we can expect to see today. So this is of course, CFT-1. Which is the first launch attempt, or not first launch, this is the third launch attempt actually, of this particular mission, but this is the first launch with crew on top of a Starliner spacecraft, and the first time that ULA, who's one of the most well-regarded launch providers in the United States, it's the first time they're ever going to launch humans, so this is also very exciting for NASA. So, all right, let's do this. So, this is going to be taking off here, hopefully today, June 5th, 2024, 14:52 UTC, so we're just about exactly an hour, really just within, well, you guys have the countdown clock right here. You can see how much time we have left. Oh, and I'm also still listening. I'll give you guys this too.
And again, those call-outs there have to do with the cabin leak check that is in progress right now.
Yeah, one of the last steps is Butch puts a cap on a valve that can open up the outside.
Okay, so the leak checks are going well, but I've been trying to pay attention here I've already been up for a little over an hour and a half, just kind of more than that, 2 hours, listening to how things are progressing, and so far things have been going well. So I'm trying to listen and read the pre-launch preview here, and then we'll get to the live stream and actually follow along with them. But the crew, this is the Starliner crewed flight test. And by the way, if you guys need this article, everydayastronaut.com, we're not, just for a little heads up, we're not doing every single launch anymore, or we never really did anyway, but we're really just doing kind of the bigger missions each year, and kind of trying to keep the tables alive for you guys, because I think that's the most important thing. So if you've noticed a little change on the website, we're kind of focusing more on the bigger things than just all of the tiny ones. This is, because nowadays there's so many launches. Okay, so this is the launch provider for this. This is United Launch Alliance is launching it. The customer is Boeing and NASA. So technically NASA paid for it, and it's a fixed price contract. So it's NASA's mission, and Boeing and SpaceX were the two people that won the contracts in 2016? And so they both won contracts to get humans to the International Space Station. Boeing hired United Launch Alliance as their launch provider. So there's a lot of moving parts here. NASA's the customer, just like NASA's the customer for SpaceX launches. NASA is the customer for this, flying NASA astronauts on the spacecraft. And Boeing is the one that made the Starliner spacecraft. It's riding on top of United Launch Alliance's Atlas V. And the particular variant here, as you can see on screen, is the N22, which is... I'm still trying to listen. This is hard to do. Two things at once. The N22, which is no fairing for N, two RL-10 engines, and on the Centaur upper stage, and 2 solid rocket boosters. This launch, like all the Atlas V's, takes off at Slick 41 in Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida, where I was literally all last week and until earlier when I finally headed back out here to Texas for the Starship launch. Hang on, let's listen.
LD concurs. Roger. RLM, LC.
RLM 11.
Roger. Please disable line item 390.
Active.
All right, another part of our job is to wear headsets and listen to the loops that you're hearing there on the broadcast, as well as some of the other side channels, just to keep track of everything going on today. We did just get an update that the helium leak on Starliner remains good. We have confirmation it is still acceptable for flight, looking about like it did on Saturday. So that's great news. And Dylan, Atlas has been really all over the solar system, but preps for today.
Okay, that's actually fantastic. I know the leak has come up a lot because it's unusual to...
Oh. Roger.
I feel like as soon as okay. So the leak has come up quite a bit. Normally a leak is a very bad thing, obviously, but this is such a tiny leak in such an inert gas, and it's well within the bounds of what's considered acceptable. And it's obviously been tested, verified. This type of stuff happens a lot, to be honest. Like a lot of spacecraft, especially helium, is pretty nasty. So, man.
Operation 55, Step 270, FTS open loop test is complete.
Roger.
So we do have added steps to support those additional activities to ingress the crew and then close out the Starliner and then prepare the crew access tower for launch. But right now, today, we're remaining in our final built-in hold as we continue to prepare for liftoff. There are a few activities left for us today. The blue team will be clearing
Let's keep going here.
the area soon, at which point the final...
Which means I have to mute this quick. Okay, so the payload mass on this, it's not actually specified. The spacecraft is going to the International Space Station. Will they be attempting to recover the first stage? Nope, that is not an option with the Atlas V. So it will crash into the Atlantic Ocean. Will they be attempting to recover the fairings? No, there are no fairings. Actually, there technically are fairings. There's actually aerodynamic fairings and a little nose cone that all pop off after stage Sep. But there's no like main over fairing that goes over top of the vehicle because they need to be able to abort off of the rocket in case there were some kind of event. So the spacecraft is not inside of a fairing because that'd be bad for humans. How's the weather looking? It's currently 90% go. Now this is a fun one. This will be the 100th launch of the Atlas V. Very exciting. Third mission for ULA this year. 161st mission overall for ULA. First Atlas V of 2024 and the first launch of crew from Cape Canaveral Space Force Station since 1968 with Apollo 7. That's pretty amazing. We'll just do a little reminder here of who's on board. It's Commander Butch Wilmore, who has already flown a lot. 11-day space shuttle mission, as 100, and then also Expedition 41 to the ISS as well. 178 days in space so far. And Suni Williams, or Sunny Williams, who is also a spaceflight veteran, spending 322 days in space, which is absolutely amazing. So, yeah, two absolute rock stars of spaceflight, and yeah, let's tune in now. I'll try to get some of your guys' questions when there's a good time, but let's listen in. We're within an hour now, so. And also, does anyone else have it where the official NASA stream is that big black bar at the bottom? I don't know why that's happening. I see it everywhere I've looked, too. I don't know if anyone else is seeing something like that. It's not on my phone like that, though. Who knows? Might be a black bar live stream. I have no idea why that's happening. But here we
You're
go.
the white room for launch. Annulus purge was disconnected at 13:54 Zulu.
Roger. Blue team lead, LC.
Go ahead.
Perform toxic vapor and O2 checks when raising the environmental seal and configure white room for launch.
Roger.
Getting that room right there ready to launch. You'll see that environmental seal around the Starliner and get ready to go up as they get that room ready for launch and eventually at L-11 minutes retract the arm away. All right, again, the ascent corridor weather, though, it is low for any issues. So all across the board, we still look good for weather. There's a look at the satellite loop, and you can see all across the eastern seaboard, all the way up into the maritime provinces of Canada. Fortunately, we got a high-pressure system off North Carolina that's keeping everything pretty stable and clear out there. Just a couple of issues along the way, but nothing that would put the Starliner at risk of splashing down all along that track if they needed to, should something happen to the rocket. We're looking good so far from out here at Slick 41 and Hangar AE, and we'll send it back to the host desk.
I wanted to do a quick little friendly reminder here for those of you watching our stream here this morning. As you probably know from my mantra, I'm always Team Space. And I definitely know, this mission, some people aren't as excited about it. I know that it's been a little, pretty delayed. It's had a lot of teething pains to get humans to this point. But the important thing is, number one, this has all been paid for already by NASA. So we want, this is a dissimilar redundancy to Dragon capsule and SpaceX. We want this to go well, and most importantly, the number one reason we want this to go well, there are 2 human lives on board that we are here to cheer on, send good vibes their way, and we're going to watch them go to space on a brand new spacecraft. And that is, I don't care who you are, that's exciting. And I just want to hopefully remind everyone that the stakes at risk here is human lives on a brand new vehicle. So it's something that we want to take seriously, and we want to just be here to cheer them on, because that's what being part of Team Space is all about. This doesn't have to be your favorite vehicle. You can hate the vehicle, just don't hate on the people that built it and the people working hard to make this happen. So this is an important ability. The United States to my knowledge, the United States has never had two crew orbital vehicles online at the same time, because they've never been overlap between Mercury, Gemini, Apollo, Space Shuttle. This is the first time ever we'll have overlap. We'll have multiple spacecraft, and I think that's amazing. So that makes me excited. That makes me excited for the future. Just feels good. And dissimilar redundancy again. That's a big thing. There's literally, I don't think hardly a single subsystem that's shared between this vehicle with the rocket and the spacecraft, as with what SpaceX is using for Dragon and Falcon 9. They're completely, so if there ever were to be a problem with either vehicle, it should not affect the other, which is an extremely important capability. So yeah, I think that's always important to remember. So and on that note, from Lord Zor saying, go Team Space. And I don't know if that showed up. Maybe it didn't show up. Maybe I'd messed something up. Let's see here. Those are not showing up now. What happened to the overlay? What did I do? I probably broke something, knowing me. Let's see. Oh, there we go. Can you see that? Yes, you can. Okay. This is from Michael Maxey. Good morning, Tim. Let's see if Starliner gets off the pad and into space successfully. That's exactly, thank you so much for that super chat. That's exactly what we're looking at today here. I mean, this is the big one. This is what we're all here to watch. And I just really hope that it does get off the pad today, because I went out for the first two attempts. I was out in Florida for the attempt at the beginning of, what was that? Beginning of May already. The next attempt last Saturday. Unfortunately, I can't be two places at once, no matter how hard I've tried in the past. So I had to choose pick and choose, and we obviously have a lot more going on here at Starbase. A lot of stuff happening, actually, just even in the next 24 hours is extremely overwhelming. We have this launch in the morning. We have camera setup out at the pad. We have some other exciting things and a pre-launch party tonight, and then stream goes live for the big show, and then we wake up in the morning and hopefully witness the world's largest, most powerful rocket flying. And that's so to try to do all these things is pretty crazy. And thank you guys for tuning in with me this morning. But yeah, just a reminder that the rocket, what you're seeing right now, we're watching the live stream of the rocket in Florida. So this is a NASA launch at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. It's gonna look like that pretty much. That video we just saw is what we're gonna be pretty much expecting to see here today. Beautiful morning out in Florida, but unfortunately I'm in Texas. I had to leave Florida after the last launch attempt and get out here to start working on Starship Stream. So let's real quick take a few more questions while we got it from Forge Gamer. Always great to hear from you, Forge. I don't know what's going on with our overlay. Sorry, this is definitely a me thing. I'm using the laptop, and I threw together a bunch of stuff this morning. All right. Would you be able to pass along a quick shout out to my dad, Mike, whose birthday is today? Would mean a lot to him. Absolutely, Forge. You've been around forever, and it's always great to see you in our chat. So I will absolutely say happy birthday, Mike. Thank you for participating and watching history with us, and happy birthday. Hope we get a beautiful candle lit here and a successful mission to the International Space Station. This is from Jan. Don't forget, guys, we don't just grab the super chats. I'm just grabbing whatever chat is in front of me here. So, what is the trajectory after the capsule has detached from Atlas Centaur? How long for it to dock with the ISS? It's about 24 hours, roughly. Actually, to be honest, I don't remember what it is for this exact alignment, because the phasing can be a little bit different every single orbit. Every time it comes around, so I don't remember if it's exactly 24 hours, but the last launch attempt is right within around 24 hours. It might be a little bit less, a little bit more. Does anyone know? Anyone remember here, and maybe Discord or something, if you guys remember, if you heard any different. This is a good reminder here from Slithery. Thank you so much for your 53 month of membership. Do we have a pointy end check yet? We have not yet. Once we get a good view of the rocket from full, head to toes, I think that'll be a good opportunity to do a pointy end, flaming end down check. And there it is, actually. With Tori Bruno, you speak the word out into the ether, and Tori's going to provide. So by this view, this is a fantastic view, actually, to confirm the pointy end is up, the flaming end is down. So, official. How many uncrewed flight tests? Great question, unknown user. Good name. There have been 2 uncrewed flight tests. The first one was at the end of 2019, December 2019, and it didn't go very well. It actually, it luckily came back safely in one piece, and that's actually the spacecraft they're flying today. But it definitely had a handful of shortcomings. So it got tweaked up and improved, and then they did another uncrewed flight test in, was that 2022? That was OFT2. And that went very well. That went very well, and it gave them the confidence to move forward with humans on board now. So that's what we're seeing now. And yeah. Let's see here. This is not a dumb question. Daniel Jepson, this is actually a great question. How is Starliner different than Dragon? They're about as different. Well, I mean, obviously in some ways they're both kind of that truncated capsule design, kind of a gumdrop-ish shape. Starliner's a lot flatter and a lot more traditional, more like the shape of an Apollo capsule, whereas Dragon's a lot taller. Now, if I remember right off the top of my head, I might be wrong. I had this all out the other day, but Starliner is, actually I could probably find it here. But Starliner is a tiny bigger. There we go, 11 cubic meters. Dragon cubic meters internal volume. Dragon has 10 cubic meters internal volume, but Dragon has a 14 cubic meter unpressurized trunk. So it actually has the ability to take up things that would be attached to the outside of fixed to the outside of the International Space Station, things that won't go inside and outside of the space station. So obviously if it's sealed and if it's inside the pressurized cabin, that's things that would be taken into the space station, cargo, supplies, spacesuit parts, all that type of stuff. Now, if it's something that needs to be on the outside, let's say there's batteries to replace or cameras attached to the outside or new solar panels, that's where that SpaceX Dragon trunk comes in quite handy, is for things like that. So Starliner does not have an unpressurized cargo area, but it does have a slightly larger internal volume area. The Starliner also, they both use a liquid abort system. So instead of using solid rocket motors like you'd see in even Orion today, but definitely back in the day with Mercury and Apollo, Soyuz has a tractor solid rocket propellant polar abort system. These both Starliner and Dragon have liquid propellant hypergolic, so they instantaneously combust. If you guys haven't watched my video about how to start a rocket engine, how to power a rocket engine, and also I actually have a video about abort systems, specifically with these vehicles doing the pusher system, and I have a video comparing Boeing and the Starliner and Dragon directly. So if you need any more details, but they're in some ways very similar, in some ways very different. I would say one other big thing that's quite different is the way that you control and command the vehicle. Starliner is way more traditional with hand controllers with what feel like, looks kind of like a joystick. We have 2 test pilots on board, so they're both going to be, I think they both would potentially prefer having hand controls like that to be able to fly the spacecraft. And reports are in the simulator that's very nimble and very easy to maneuver. Dragon, on the other hand, is a lot more, touchscreen oriented, a lot more focused on, they both can fly completely autonomously, but Dragon is built more around, touchscreens and a lot sleeker, a lot simpler, and Starliner is a lot more traditional, looks a lot more aviation style almost, which again would be, so the view that we see here too, you kind of get a sense that it's pretty cramped so below them, they're lying on their backs right now, and Commander Butch, to get in, to scoot over a couple seats to get over to that spot. He's all the way up against the left wall, or the port wall, and then Suni's sitting next to him. She's almost kind of down the middle of the spacecraft, and there's both of them will never fly more than 4 passengers. Today, obviously, for the first test flight, just like what SpaceX did with DM2, they're only flying 2 astronauts on board. So, all right. Oh, Butch is from Nashville. Go Butch. Awesome. Let's see here. Okay. Gilgwath, thank you for your chat, which is popping up 75 different ways right now. I gotta figure out how to fix this. You guys, I might need like a second to to try and fix some stuff. Give me I'm going to leave you with some audio. I'm going to work on this for just 1 second.
Starliner moves past them.
That's insane.
Starliner can safely abort all the way up to orbit, as you just heard in that interview we saw from Florida. That includes the East Coast, off the coast of Newfoundland, and off the coast of Ireland. Beyond that, it would just be able to safely abort to orbit, and of course, we're hoping not to need any of those options.
And the last major milestone before crew begins what we call orbit ops is the orbital insertion, or OI burn, which will move Starliner into slightly elliptical orbit as opposed to the more slightly suborbital trajectory that it starts off in after separating from the Centaur. From there, Starliner will be on its way to the International Space Station.
And speaking of the space station, let's check in with Rob Navius and the International Space Station Flight Control Team. Rob?
Go ahead.
Thanks, Brandy. Back here in the International Space Station Flight Control Room, flight controllers are keeping tabs on the countdown and monitoring the work on board by the Expedition 71 crew in advance of Starliner's scheduled arrival tomorrow. After docking, NASA astronauts Matt Dominic, Mike Barrett, Jeanette Epps, and Tracy Dyson, along with Station Commander Oleg Kononenko of Roscosmos and fellow cosmonauts Nikolai Chub and Alexander Grabenkin, will be ready to roll out the red carpet as Wilmore and Williams float through the hatch into the Harmony module. Now, the dock timeline is designed to be variable. That means that the number of days Starliner could stay at the station could be adjusted depending on any further launch delays or undocking delays caused by weather conditions at the western U.S. landing sites for Starliner. One of the most important dock days for the Starliner crew will come 2 days prior to their scheduled undocking.
Sorry, I'm really trying to hear. There's comms in the background of mission control, but it sounds like they're clearing the pad, so that's a great sign. That's a very good sign.
For their departure from the station and the deorbit and entry events that will follow. We're now 41 minutes, 9 seconds away from liftoff. Today, the operational loops are so far thankfully quiet. And with that, we'll go back to our folks at the Cape.
As we prepare in less than...
Okay, let's try the comments again here and see if we still are having... Okay, it's something. At least it's not taking up half the screen. Okay, Gilgwath. Here we go. Since I'm not going to the moon anymore, I propose to reopen the Tim Goes to Mars Fund. Here's my starting contribution. Okay, Mars, absolutely not. The moon was a stretch. Space was a stretch in general for me. So, moon, maybe, of course, yes. Mars, no. Don't make me go to Mars. Just... No Mars, please, for the love of all. I don't want to be like gone on some deserted, horrible like deserted island, just millions and millions of miles away from friends and family and loved ones for over 2 years. And no, not going to Mars. Can't make me. You can try, not doing it. This is awesome from Daniel Parker. If I wasn't excited for Starliner, I wouldn't be here. Go Team Space. Also excited for Starship launch. That's where I'm at. It's one doesn't have to take away from the other unless they've literally unless we have a scrub and then I can only stream one. Then one does actually have to take away from the other for me. But as far as us, the general public, I like to think that we can be excited about all the options and at least support them and wish best of luck. So this is from Protogenesis saying, I watched the Starship launch in band class. That's amazing. Sounds like when I was in band, oh my gosh, I was a percussion player. So, sometimes you might have a long period of waiting for, the woodwind section or something to learn a part or something. And I remember I would always just bring a car magazine. I was a big car enthusiast. So I'd always just sit in the back waiting for the band to learn their stuff and would read car magazines. I think these days I'd be watching spaceflight launches if I was in band in high school. But all right, let's see here. So this is a totally fair question from Elmo18782. I know it might be a negative question, but how do we trust Boeing at this point with some past issues? I mean, so the thing to remember here is that NASA and Boeing and NASA and SpaceX work so tightly together that Boeing double checks every single thing. And there's a lot of engineering going back and forth. Now, unfortunately, that partnership didn't catch some of the early problems in the program, like on the first flight test. But I think they learned a ton from that, and I really hope that there's, even between launch attempts, they said they feel even better about their system because they were able to learn more between the scrubs. So just kind of about how, and yeah, I don't know. I mean, and the other important thing is the astronauts are very heavily in the loop with designing the system, and they're literally familiar with every single subsystem, developing the training, developing the hardware, developing so many things in the loop alongside NASA. A lot of the stuff is just double checked, and yeah. I don't know. I mean, yeah, I personally probably would not fly in the first of any spacecraft, but that's just me. But yeah.
Team has cleared the pad. Now the plan is for Butch and Suni to be docked to the ISS for at least 8 days, and then after they will return to Earth with a soft.
Sorry, we were hearing comms for a second. That's a cool shot. This is from Michael Maxey. Good to hear from you. Starliner has its EAS. It's in the center of the capsule trunk. EAS, electronic. Starliner has its solar panels and attitude control systems thrusters on the trunk. Environmental EAS, environmental something. So yeah, so Starliner around the trunk has the radiators all the way around the trunk. Then it has its the solar panels on the bottom of the trunk. SpaceX's Dragon capsule has it like 50-50 on the trunk. Half of the, actually here, boop, boop, boop. 50% of the Dragon capsule, as you can see here, is one side faces the sun, the other side faces away from the sun. So they made it so one side has solar panels when it's facing the sun, and the other side radiates the heat away from the environmental control. So yeah, that's how SpaceX did it. Starliner, on the other hand, kind of did it where there's no hollow trunk on Starliner. So just imagine the bottom of this would be all solar panels, and the circumference of the service module has the radiators on it. So yeah. What's the difference in cost to NASA? One launch of Starliner versus one launch of Dragon. So they both, at the time of the first contracts, actually had, I believe, identical seat. They were charging the same amount per seat, which I believe was, oh man, can someone in Discord remind me? I believe it was right around 60 million, maybe 65 million or 58 million, somewhere around there. Initial development cost of Boeing got, I think, 4.3 billion, whereas SpaceX got 2.6 billion for the initial development and test flights, or for the whole program. But it came out to be, they were charging the same amount for the seat, so Boeing got more money for the actual development of the vehicle. So yeah, that's how that's going. By the way, I'm listening, still actively listening. So anytime we hear comm chatter, comms are going straight on air because that's what I want to tune into. Right now, the hosts are just kind of doing their fun chit chat. But yeah, I think it's fun to be able to answer your guys' questions while we can. Anyway, here comes the comm check.
Now for a series of comm checks.
Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Op 60, step 10, step 20. Blast danger area is clear.
Roger.
So yeah, we expect to hear repeated communication checks with Capcom in Houston and the crew. This is an opportunity for them to also discuss any anomalies or resolutions to those anomalies, but we've been saying no issues, the team today, so that's great news. And then these comm checks that we'll hear now, we're going to periodically hear them throughout these final 34 minutes. And again, communication is so important, and we want to make sure that those channels are working properly from the crew to everybody else on the ground that's helping to monitor launch. And where we are now, again, the pad team has cleared the pad.
So it's just Butch, Suni, a Starliner, and Atlas and Centaur all together.
Right. Yep. The first two astronauts to fly in Starliner.
Go ahead.
Yes, sir. I can also give you step 60. Flight hazard area has been cleared of all personnel accounted for.
Roger.
Butch and Suni, the first two astronauts to fly in Starliner. Suni will be the first woman to test an orbital spacecraft. And the last time people flew to space in an Atlas-class rocket was nearly 61 years ago. CFT is going to be that final test to certify a second commercial spacecraft to ferry astronauts to and from the space station. And this is a cool fact, too. Actually, once in orbit, for the first time in NASA history, the agency will have 3 different crew spacecraft orbiting in space simultaneously. So that's, of course, the International Space Station, the SpaceX Crew Dragon, and then Boeing's Starliner spacecraft. What an incredible milestone.
That is an incredible milestone, and NASA's going to break that again.
So,
after we were working here at the Kennedy Space Center to get Artemis and the Orion spacecraft up into space too. So these are exciting times, and we're building a future where there's even more spacecraft in the future with humans on board.
There's way more.
There's
Orion. There's going to be. I mean, if you think about it, Cygnus capsule, and if we have Sierra Space. I mean, it's with Dream Chaser. There's so many. Let's take a few more questions here as we wait for the next bit of comms loop. This is real quick from Dave Graham. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Haven't followed closely, but my condolences for Dear Moon. I appreciate that. I did want to mention I talked about it on this week's episode of a little bit. I talked about it a little bit on this week's episode of Spacewalk. Friendly reminder, I do have a totally separate podcast that's available on any podcast reader. It's also its own YouTube channel where it's just an RSS feed. But it is called Spacewalk, so grab your phones right now, get on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Give it a listen. We're doing, it's news. It's very casual. It's not really necessarily news. We're taking your questions. Maybe those questions might be topical on current events and things. But yeah, it's obviously totally free to listen to. Obviously, it's all over the place. Find it, give it a listen. So if you do want to hear a little bit more of my thoughts on Dear Moon, I did a kind of a statement online that I would encourage reading if you're not familiar with what I'm talking about. But I do talk about it a tiny bit, but I'm always going to try to defer to that and not talk too much more about it. But there was a question that was a really cool, interesting way to kind of, do that. But we also talk about Starliner specifically, orbital refueling, and TTEB. So an exciting episode. Find Spacewalk Podcast wherever you listen to things. You can also find it right here on everydayastronaut.com. I think /spacewalk. You can just find the player there. But like I said, it's Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, and wherever else you find stuff. That was episode 6. Sorry. Episode 6 is Dear Moon. Thanks, Spencer. I was showing it off the whole time. The episode 6 is the brand new one that has Dear Moon, building rockets in space, and more. It's funny because it does talk about Starliner too, but sorry for my confusion. Oh man. Okay, so we still have this up, and we're still listening, and I'm still waiting for more comms chatter. Let's Tim Dodd is the Martian. No, please, no. Can we? No? Is that an option? No. Oh, here's my contribution to No, Jack. No. Oh my gosh. Thank you for the donation, but no. How much is there?
RC, conduct weather briefing on Channel 8 Weather Conference Net.
Roger.
Arm controls, start arm hydraulic final preps.
Roger.
LOX 1, perform pogo suppressor charge.
Roger.
Prop 1, perform RD-180 transducer converter calibration.
Roger.
P&E 2, perform Centaur LH2 SVV cycle test.
Roger.
That's all the communications between the launch team, basically all the steps that's needed to get us to T0.
Yes, less than 30 minutes left. So aboard the International Space Station, if the crew gets a minute, I do believe that...
Okay. Cool. Keep listening for any loops. We are coming up. The next big one will be the go, no-go poll, which is obviously always very exciting. So let's go back to this question here from Olivi. Oh, man. Of course, we're hearing something. What does it take to become an astronaut? Well, traditionally, you'd go into some kind of, you'd probably need like a master's degree in some kind of applied science. It does not hurt to have, especially if depending on what you want to be doing. If you want to be a commander or a pilot, being a pilot, if you want to be a mission specialist.
180 transducer converter calibration is complete and the engine FIV is open.
Roger. Flight control. Start flight control. Final prep.
Roger. LC, Peony 2.
Go ahead.
Centaur LH2 SVV cycle tests are complete.
Roger.
Again, Tracy Dyson, Jeanette Epps, two of the astronauts that are on the International Space Station already. We did get a chance to talk to them prior to launch.
Update complete.
And they said they are ready for Butch and Suni to arrive. They've gotten their areas all set up for them, so they're really excited to welcome them just about 26 hours after liftoff today. Again, 27 minutes, 53 seconds and counting until liftoff of Butch and Suni, the first two to fly Boeing's Starliner capsule to the International Space Station. Let's go over now.
Cool. Real quick this is a good sideline from Sideline Brawl in our Discord did point out that NASA's Inspector General at the end of the day, when they kind of looked at the total cost with the cost plus contract, or with the fixed price contracting, it really turned out that SpaceX's Crew Dragon for the first round is $55 million per seat, and Starliner is more like $90 million when you factor in all the things. So that's the real number. That's probably the number that matters more, is $55 million versus $90 million. So yeah. Let's keep going here with great questions. Why is it? This is a great one. Why does it take so long for a launch to happen? How will this ever be economical for future human flight? I definitely say that there's. Still more com chatter.
Oh, minus 27 minutes.
We leave that.
Yeah, why does it take so long? So this is a friendly reminder of how things work differently with Starliner versus Dragon and ULA versus SpaceX. So SpaceX started doing something called load and go, which is because their Falcon 9 uses super chilled densified propellant. They load it as late as possible, and it basically loads right up until liftoff. There's only about a minute there where it's sitting. Just waiting for liftoff, but it more or less just fills the rocket, and as soon as it's filled, it launches. That's not the normal way to do it, actually. This rocket, for instance, has been fueled for hours and hours and hours, and this is how it's traditionally been done: is you fuel up your rocket, you get it into a fairly inert state, and then the crew and the pad crew goes out to the rocket. And it's funny because SpaceX is considered to be doing it backwards, where the crew and everyone's out there approaching an empty rocket, an unpressurized vehicle. They get the crew in, they strap the crew in, they turn on the launch, they remove the tower access arm, the crew tower access arm, and then they turn on the abort system, and then they start to fuel the rocket, so that the crew and the pad crew is never exposed to a pressurized vehicle, and including even not just the actual main tanks, but even the COPVs, the composite overwrap pressure vessels that are at thousands of psi, hundreds and hundreds of bar of pressure. Those are all filled up and only done once the crew is safely strapped in and the launch abort system's armed. What ULA and Boeing has decided to do is the more traditional route, how the shuttle did it, how Apollo, how Mercury, how Gemini did it, which is where they approach the vehicle as it's in a more or less inert state, and then they load up, and then But the difference, one of the big things is that ULA decided to not do any state changes, big state changes. So they're not going to be cycling valves or doing anything while any crew are present. And I've had my doubts because it seems like most launches they're having to do some kind of tweaking of valves to make sure everything's happy, to kind of massage the rocket to get it ready for launch. But knock on wood here, literally, this launch has been going off a lot smoother than the prior attempts. And but yeah, it's still, you're looking at a 4+ hour thing. If we're talking about humans going to space every day and this being a common thing, yeah, we're going to have to make some changes. This is just not the way we're going to be flying humans every day. So I think, maybe someday Dragon, they're still looking at a 40-minute, fuel time. Starship's getting down there. Starship's filling, I think, faster already, if I remember right. Yeah, if I recall, I think Starship's refueling in less amount of time right now than Falcon 9, are right about the same amount of time, and it's 9 or 10 times the amount of propellant. So, yeah, we might actually see that be almost more reasonable to fill up a giant vehicle like that and get on board and all that kind of stuff. The RL-10, thank you, Will. Good to hear from you. Thank you so much for your ongoing support. How do you, which version of the RL-10, since they're using, so there's 2 of them, and if I recall, because they're using 2 of them, they can't use a too much bigger nozzle. I think it's the RL-10C. Can I get a confirmation on that? I believe it's RL-10C. Let's see. Oh man, what kind of cars do I love from podcasts? Okay, I mean, a lot of cars. And sorry.
Initiate orbital parameter calculations on primary CCLS.
Roger.
Monitoring those procedures here and.
Cool. Grew up when I was in 2nd grade. That's some of the first like big words I learned how to spell was Lamborghini Countach. Had that poster on my wall. Could draw it 3D. Starting in 2nd grade, just obsessed with that car. But then later on, I became more obsessed with like anything with a turbo. I love turbocharging, which is probably why I love rockets, because it's essentially the same thing. You know, a giant turbo machinery powering a really loud and powerful vehicle. I'm very fond of things like the RX-7 rotary engines, weird rotary engines, and yeah, I like a lot of cars. Just a big fan of all that kind of stuff. I like supercars and Formula One. But a lot of that love is turned into spaceflight and things that go even faster and are even louder. So, oh man, Glenn, great question. How sleep deprived will I be on tomorrow's stream racing between 2 launches? So it's more than the 2 launches. It's this launch, which isn't a big deal, relatively speaking. I'm sitting in air conditioning, just nice and easy stream. It's the rest of it where it's, you know, almost 100 degrees here. So what is that, like 45 degrees Celsius or something? Ooh.
Charge is complete.
Roger.
LCSYS.
Go ahead.
All secondary. Secondary.
Yeah, you're breaking up, SYS.
All secondary verified on our link.
I did copy that. Please check your headset.
All right, as I was saying, that in an emergency, they would be able to pressurize their suits quickly if needed. And it's a little different for them this time because, as we mentioned during this broadcast.
Quick, when we were talking about cars here, some debate on, I've owned a Tesla since 2018, and someone asked, why do you own a Tesla? And this is incorrect. I did not trade it in for something easier to fix. That was just the height of the pandemic. It was literally like supply chain issues. Still own that Model 3, so never traded it in for anything easy to repair. That is incorrect. Not sure where you got that from. But yeah, I own a Tesla. I like EVs, but that doesn't mean that I don't like other vehicles. I guess I'm team vehicle. But I prefer the convenience, honestly, of an EV. You know, when you're able to leave home every day fully charged, you have something quiet and extremely fast, and yeah, I actually enjoy it. I still love a good manual transmission and a clutch and a turbo and all that kind of stuff. It's I would like to have a second car, just like a sports car for fun, but daily driving, I'm sorry, hard to beat an EV.
By redline monitor, in event table, or in the correct configuration for terminal
deflate
count.
the lumbar support.
Verify. RC, verify solar radiation, acceptable for launch.
Verified.
Right, you might have heard, kind of came in faintly.
Starliner copies.
They asked them to go ahead and deflate their lumbar support. Wasn't sure if we're going to hear a little bit more about that.
We're getting close, guys. Under T-minus 20 minutes. I need to kind of pay attention. I feel like I'm out here just losing track of time. This is from Bob Edwards. Love the rocket deep dive videos and on-site exploration of space companies. What's the difference in power of this rocket versus the Falcons? So they're very. Hold on.
Until launch. Maintain operational silence in the LCC.
This is the LC with a terminal count briefing. If a condition exceeds a launch constraint anytime after the terminal count status check, the observer shall announce hold, hold, hold on channel 1, identify their station, and briefly state the reason for the hold.
So, Lauren, as we were mentioning earlier, there's been traffic on multiple side nets, and that announcement that you just heard is Chief Launch Conductor Doug Lebo now bringing the team out from the individual subsystem nets, bringing everybody to the command channel, channel 1, for the final minutes of the countdown here. So we're gonna start to hear more traffic on the command channel as we start to do our final configuration steps for launch. So we're going to hear a couple of things. We're going to hear...
minus 18 minutes.
Flight control, perform launch on time verification.
Roger.
We're going to hear some final avionics checks like that last call. We're going to hear hold fire switch verification. The range hold fire system allows representatives from Space Launch Delta 45 a hold button in the up the road at the Morrell Operations Center. So if there's an issue, a range safety issue that comes up, they can press a button and automatically stop our sequencer. So that's called a hold fire check. Those hold fire switches will be configured shortly, and we'll also start to hear calls about wrapping up our helium bottle charging on both the first and second stage.
I saw someone say they despise Boeing for launching on the same day as SpaceX. First off, SpaceX launches almost every day, so let's give someone else a little bit of chance here. And the most important thing, SpaceX is not launching Starship until tomorrow, so about 22 hours. So totally a different day if that's your metric.
Reestablished and at flight mass.
Roger.
minus 17 minutes.
OSM, SRB ignition SNA switch in the enable position.
SRB ignition enabled.
Verify FCO, RCO, and OSM hold fire switches are in their proceed position.
Ready to proceed.
All right, we're going to send it over to NASA's Daryl Nail at Hangar 8. Daryl.
Cool. All right, so the power of these rockets, if I remember, I have a whole deep dive again on Starliner versus Dragon. I even think I have I believe there's an article version, but it does show the Atlas 5 N22. Atlas 5 N22 versus Falcon 9. I'll try to give you the exact number of. Okay, here. Oh no, that's my own article. Here we go. So I'm just taking a look here. The Starliners. So the Atlas 5 N22. I'm trying to look for actual thrust numbers here for you. But the payload capacity, Starliner. I mean, geez, Atlas 5 can be very similar in payload capacity, or sometimes greater than the Falcon 9. Depending on the configuration, but we don't have the thrust numbers there, I don't think. Did I forget to put that in there? But yeah, it just depends on, so with the number of solid rocket boosters and all that stuff, the Atlas 5 has, in this, they have the Atlas Centaur upper stage, which is an extremely efficient, it's a high energy, hydrogen-powered, hydrolox-powered upper stage with a lot of potential, but it's very underpowered, so it actually requires 2 RL-10 engines in this particular configuration so they can fly shallow enough, because normally the Atlas 5, the booster, kind of lofts it up pretty high, but when you have crew on board, you want to fly a more shallow ascent profile, and that's what's going to maintain that if you have to abort at any time, they come in at a shallow enough angle that it's not too steep. Let's see. Trying to listen in.
Air to ground 1 and now merge going to air to ground 1.
Roger.
We'll send it back to the host desk.
LC flight, air to ground 1, ready for contact with Starliner on channel 1.
Roger. Starliner, LC, com check on channel 1.
We have done the pointing and up, flaming down check.
Those are comm checks again between different teams.
Loud and clear.
I have you loud and clear also.
And our astronauts, who you see there. Again, this is the test flight.
Houston, com check, air to ground 1.
Houston, Starliner, loud and clear.
Houston has you loud and clear on air to ground 1.
Test flight, and Boeing is working towards certification. To do that, there are a total of 87 flight test objectives and many more operational capability checkouts. So take a look at some of the main objectives with the crew on board. I'll go through a couple of them here.
I'll answer a few more of your questions here. You guys can read these flight test objectives while we're talking about it. From TR33 top, gotta add to the Mars Fund. No, gosh. I'll take a real question, but thank you very much for that. Kyle Stashke says, what kind of rocket engines are used on the Atlas rocket? And did I hear it's been 61 years since the last time humans flew on this rocket? So the main engines are the RD-180, provided by, those are Russian engines. So that's actually why the RD-180 is being phased out, and therefore the Atlas V is being phased out. As ULA moves towards the Vulcan rocket. They had one flight of it so far, went great with Blue Origin built BE-4 engines. It also has some solid rocket boosters, which are Gem 63s now, and not XLs though. The Gem 63 XLs on Vulcan are even bigger. Here we're actually then speaking of, and then it also has the two RL-10 engines on the upper stage. Now, 61 years ago, last time humans flew on this rocket was a very different version of it's like completely different version of the Atlas V, or not. I mean, not even the Atlas V. Sorry, Atlas. It was the Atlas 65. SM65A, and that was basically like a stage and a half design. The booster engines dropped out of it, and it just had one main tank. And actually, that rocket and the Mercury capsule on top and the little Redstone rocket that we just saw a minute ago, that's going to be our next model rocket set. So I'm sure you guys are familiar with our Falcon 9. And
column closed.
You saw a video there of demo.
Fans are good. But yeah, we had we have our Falcon 9 model rockets. Our next model rocket that's coming together is going to be the Redstone collection. So it's Redstone, Mercury Redstone, and Mercury Atlas. And Mercury Redstone is like, both of them are about the same, like are shorter even than the second stage of the Falcon 9. And they're at the same scale. So it's really fun to see these all at the same scale. So we're going to try to work our way kind of through spaceflight history. Get up through the Space Shuttle and Gemini and eventually the Saturn V, and we'll try to add as many to our collection as we can, but it is really fun, though, to look back at like what the Atlas used to be compared to what the Atlas is now, and then technically, it's the same name, but there's really just about nothing at all similar to it. Let's see here.
The Starliner readiness poll is a go. We know the crew's visors are down now, so we are moving along smoothly into the final 11 minutes and 30 seconds of this countdown. This is an instantaneous launch window today.
Ooh. Thank you for the correction. The Atlas V uses the AJ60s, not the Gem 63s. That's right. Thank you for the correction.
Starliner will be working to catch up with the space station, eventually reaching speeds of more than 17,500 miles per hour. It'll take about 25 hours or so to get there.
Why? No, Mars. Seriously, I'm not going to Mars.
Control, though the crew access arm for launch.
Roger.
Right on cue. Crew access arm about to start moving away from the spacecraft. And Dylan, we will watch it move very slowly today, but it could move much faster if needed.
That's right, Lauren. It takes about 2 minutes to rotate the 120 degrees back away from Starliner to its stowed position and latched position on the crew access tower. Here we go.
And I've got a great question here for those local from Nina. Hello, what's the trajectory? Will I be able to see it from Miami? You likely won't be able to see it from Miami. It goes northeast. It's going to a 41.6 degree inclination. So it'll kind of falling fairly close to the eastern shore there. So if you're up in Georgia, the Carolinas, you might have a better chance of seeing it. Especially the main thing you'd be able to see is for the first 2 minutes or so when the solid rocket boosters are still attached.
CST 100 on internal power.
Verified.
Starliner, configure ordnance for launch.
Touch and wait.
All right, the spacecraft is running completely on its own now. And they are configuring ordnance for launch. That means the devices that initiate our separation events are ready to support both nominal and contingency operations that happen or could happen during ascent.
So Lauren, we're just about 2.5 minutes now away from our terminal count status check. The terminal count status check is the final report from each operator indicating that their system, whether it be a ground control system or a launch vehicle system, is ready to execute the final 4 minutes of the countdown to launching the rocket. At this point, if there were an issue, the anomaly team would be discussing it, but nothing like that has happened right now. All's quiet. I am expecting to hear all members of the team report go when pulled by Chief Launch Conductor Doug Lebo.
And we're actually hearing on a side channel that they are preparing for the Launch Vehicle Systems poll. This is the long one. A lot of people view this as their favorite poll. It's kind of fun to listen to them list off each system, and then that team will give a final go or no go for launch.
Yeah, that's the big
And we
go,
will
no
be
go
able to
poll
watch
that we'll want to listen into for sure. So yeah, pot costs absolutely. Rotary engines are aerospikes. And I even said that in my video about aerospikes, and I'm like, it kind of seems like what they are. It's Space O'Clock for Humanity once again. Thank you, Choco. That's awesome. Let's see. PM 1359. So is there a different launch control for each company that does a launch at the Cape and in Houston? Yeah, so it depends on who it is, what they're doing, but yeah, there's like so many different places that are considered launch control. So there's typically until a rocket clears the tower, that's normally in command there at the Cape, and then it transfers over to Houston. In case of SpaceX, it transfers over to Hawthorne. The control of the rocket and the mission goes over to Hawthorne. But Hawthorne also is a little weird. They don't always use the main firing room, but for crew they do, I believe. It's confusing. Here we go.
Crew access arms stowed for launch.
Roger.
Yay.
LC switch to ready position. All steps are complete prior to status check.
Let's listen in to Chief Launch Conductor Doug Lebo conduct that final terminal count status check as we prepare for launch.
Minus 7 minutes.
Status check to proceed with terminal count. Atlas systems, propulsion.
Go.
Hydraulics.
Go.
Pneumatics.
Go.
LO2.
Go.
Water.
Go.
Centaur systems, propulsion.
Go.
Pneumatics.
Go.
LO2.
Go.
LH2.
Go.
Has gas.
Go.
Electrical systems, airborne.
Go.
Ground.
Go.
Facility.
Go.
RFFTS.
Go.
Flight control.
Go.
GCQ.
Go.
Op support.
Go.
COM.
Go.
Umbilicals.
Go.
Arm control.
Go.
ECS.
Go.
Redline monitor.
Go.
Quality.
Go.
Op safety manager.
Go.
ULA safety officer.
Go.
Vehicle system engineer.
Go.
Anomaly chief.
Go.
Range coordinator.
Clear to proceed.
Flight director.
Houston flight is go.
Starliner.
Starliner, go.
Launch director.
You have permission to launch.
Proceeding with the count. ALC. Verify T0 is set for 14:52:15 Zulu.
Verified.
Yeah, baby.
Starliner,
That's what
net
we're talking
is clear.
about.
Thank you, LC. For everybody listening, just a thought. Sonny and I, as we were traveling to the pad, we saw many American flags, and many of you were waving flags at us. And then as we reached the pad, we look up, and of course there's that American flag on the side of the white room. Also one on the side of the rocket itself. And we know that that represents unity and resilience and unified efforts for the common good. And that's what Sonny and I have witnessed this last month. Each of you displaying what this nation's forefathers envisioned, a people committed to God, family, and country, a people who use their gifts and talents for the common good, and are passionate and tough. And we all know that when the going gets tough, and it often does, the tough get going. And you have. And Sonny and I are honored to share this dream of spaceflight with you. So let's get going. Now let's put some fire in this rocket, and let's push it to the heavens where all these tough Americans have prepared it to be.
Let's go, Calypso. Take us to space and back.
LC flight, Starliner configured for terminal count.
On my mark,
Roger.
the time will be T-minus 4 minutes and counting. 3, 2, 1, mark.
Our clock is
355.
resumed for
Ground
on-time
power is enabled.
liftoff.
Just beautiful words from Butch there. No better example of unity.
They're further along than we got last time. I'm going to answer about 2 more questions, and then I'm just going to listen in case there is a hold called. An important one here as we're getting closer from the Lorber. Is there a launch abort? I did mention that a minute ago.
Atlas boosters, hydraulic steering system.
Okay. Yes, there is a launch abort system. It's at the bottom. It's kind of see where there's like that skirt looking thing near the top. There's another ring, and then the service module, and then the capsule itself. Between that, below that skirt, there's actually where the 4 RD-88 Bantam motors. Wait, RS-88, not RD-88. Sorry, RS-88 Bantams are, and those are the launch abort system. They're liquid fueled. I have a video about that. And I also have a video exactly about this from Garrett. What's the difference between this and Dragon? We did talk about that a little bit ago. Dissimilar redundancy, but I have a whole video on that, Dragon versus Starliner. So watch that afterwards, and you'll learn everything you need to know about these 2 vehicles. But meanwhile, I think I better listen in here. Now that it's dead
Flight
silent.
software is in ascent mode. It is now set for the uphill climb.
Thank you so much, Adam. That really means a lot from Adam Seaborn. I appreciate the thoughts. You guys are awesome. And I'm not going to Mars. From Carter. No, I'm not. Just to confirm, not going to Mars.
159. Vehicle internal. 155.
Launch sequencer start.
150.
Securing Centaur LH2.
Securing Centaur LO2.
Vehicle is now transferred to its onboard batteries, and topping is
140.
completed.
Launch enabled.
137.
FTS armed.
We're getting close now. Heart's racing. I'll try to get to you guys' questions here when there's a good time to do it, but I'm going to be listening in.
OCE's armed. SCS count started. EDS ascent.
Starliner, last arm to auto.
Last arm auto.
Roger.
That call meaning if the emergency detection system on Atlas detects something.
Rock report range status.
Range green. 54. POP started.
It will trigger the launch abort system on Starliner and fire automatically. If that happened, the spacecraft would push itself away from the rocket a mile up and a mile out.
Atlas at flight press.
Don't forget, my clock's a few seconds ahead. I apologize for that.
Centaur at flight press.
25.
Status check. Go Atlas. Go Centaur.
Go Starliner. Godspeed, Butch and Suni.
Oh, let's go. Safe ride, my friends.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition. And liftoff of Starliner and Atlas V, carrying 2 American heroes, drawing a line to the stars for all of us.
Commander Butch Wilmore there, calling down to Mission Control here in Houston that the spacecraft has begun rolling into the right attitude for its ascent, and the Guidance Navigation and Control Officer here in the room seeing good data on that.
Starliner passing through max Q, or the point of maximum dynamic pressure where the forces of air friction are highest, which in Suni will shortly be passing through Mach 1, where the speed of sound.
Finally. Yes. Finally. Go Butch and Suni. Go Starliner, go ULA, go NASA. This is awesome. Looks fantastic. Looks like a beautiful day out there at the Cape. I hope that all those
You got a good
media.
throttle.
Here we go, throttle up post.
Starliner and Atlas. Looking good with speeds and attitude increasing as expected. Coming up in less than 20 seconds, the solid rocket boosters will run out of fuel and burn out.
Good SRB burnout.
Good SRB.
Hold on to
now
it for a
the
little bit
fuel
longer.
in the solid rocket boosters has been depleted. The Atlas main booster stage will be continuing its burn for about the next 3 minutes.
Good handle.
Good handle.
That call, good handle, from Capcom Joshua Kutrick, indicating that the crew now has the ability to initiate an abort manually if needed. All looking good so far. Now 2 minutes into Starliner's flight and coming up on the solid rocket booster jettison at the 2 minute and 40-second mark.
I think it jettisoned just now. Hopefully that was okay. That's just ice you're seeing. That's normal. There's a lot of ice on the side of the vehicle. A lot of cryogenic propellants.
CLG and net, good trajectory.
CLG.
The solid rocket boosters have now been jettisoned after seeing Starliner through its first 90 seconds of flight. Team on the ground here confirming that it was a good jettison and that the vehicle's trajectory continues to look good. Now 3 minutes into today's flight.
This is looking good. It's so crazy how long the Centaur, or how long the main stage of the Atlas V burns for. It burns for like 4 minutes. Unlike, Dragon capsules, like, geez, Falcon 9 is like, 2.5 or so minutes normally, depending on the mission. But yeah, the main stage, the main RD-180 is running for a long time. It's just unusual. But again, it follows a pretty shallow ascent profile to be able to keep the crews within a
Atlas booster now throttling back to limit the G-forces on Butch and Suni, trying to limit that to around 3.5 times the force of gravity you would feel while on the ground.
Again, you will see a lot of ice fall off as the tanks get depleted, and yeah, that's normal. There's a lot of cryogenic, especially on the Centaur upper stage. It's liquid hydrogen, which is extremely cold, and liquid oxygen. The main booster, one of its tanks for its propellant is RP1, so basically kerosene, jet fuel, and that's not cryogenic. So that's why you see the tank is half white where the liquid oxygen is, and that's because of ice buildup on the outside, or frost. It's more like frost, but chunks of ice can come out. So it normally would look like that when it's unfueled. By the way, this isn't just an animation. This is actually real-time telemetry matched up to a simulation. So there's stage separation there with the dual RL-10 engines on the Centaur. Here we go. Why aren't they talking about it? It's looking good.
Staging.
Here in the ground.
Decals open, you have sublimator act.
Ecal sub act. Ecal. Great act.
Team on the ground reporting that they saw the ascent cover on top of Starliner that's been protecting the spacecraft's docking system through its climb into orbit. They saw that jettison as planned.
Staging was good. You have good control.
And now the second stage's 2 Centaur engines have ignited to continue pushing Starliner into space, fueled by liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen. The next milestone that we'll be watching for is the aeroskirt jettison.
I think we did see the aeroskirt jettison already, unless it was the nose cone. Is that what they said? Yeah, they already jettisoned all the aerodynamic features. So it has that skirt, it also has a nose cone that all get jettisoned.
Starliner, you had good booster performance. You're up to plus 31.
Plus 31.
Atlas Control reporting booster performance offset of 31 seconds of ISP, or specific impulse, relative to its design baseline of around 450.
That was a confusing call. It's getting 30 seconds more? ISP, is that what they just said? I'll have to listen to that again. That was very confusing. So again, yeah, even this, I know it just looks like a, kind of crude, 1998 Microsoft animation or something from, Flight Simulator or something, but it's actually a real-time, they're taking all the real-time telemetry and data, and it corresponds to this. So it actually is a good representation of what's going on. The only flaw, the biggest flaw I have is number one.
Almost 7 minutes.
You would not be able to see the flame because it's hydrogen, so they're completely transparent. Or the exhaust, you can't see. And second of all, now that it's at this altitude, it's well within space. So it's actually already at, it's apogee out. It doesn't say necessarily if this is where it's at, but it's 158 kilometers in altitude. So that's exactly 100 miles basically. They're well above the Kármán line. They're where the atmosphere is extremely negligible, basically zero. And therefore, all the exhaust would actually come out of the nozzle, like in all directions, basically. It's not going to shoot out straight anymore because the ambient air pressure is zero. So exhaust at that stage comes out almost directly perpendicular to the nozzle, which is why you want the nozzle to be as long as possible. That's why vacuum nozzles are so long, is to be able to straighten that flow out for as long as possible to get as much as that reaction to push the rocket in this direction and not waste any molecules and energy going out the sides. It's inevitable. You'd have to have an infinitely long nozzle in space if you wanted to actually have the perfect nozzle. Obviously, an infinitely long nozzle's, what's that called? Impossible. It's also heavy, so they find that trade-off of where a longer nozzle would theoretically potentially increase performance, but it then gets too heavy to actually make up for that difference. So that's why nozzles are the shape and the length that they are. They're always inherently going to have some small inefficiencies. Okay, I can move my head, even though my name's not Todd, I can move my head over. So that's kind of what we're seeing. We're not hearing much on comms, by the way. I'm sorry that I went on a nozzle rant there with you, but they're not really saying much. We haven't pulled up here, and not a ton's been going on. We are not funding a Mars trip. That's a good question, Richard. I actually don't know the question as
Starliner MECO converged 11:5 to 11:52. Good perf. You're at 34 to 36 seconds.
11:52, 34 seconds.
That call letting the crew know that the main engine cutoff, MECO, should happen just about on time, about 12 minutes into today's flight. Another good indication that Starliner's ascent is taking along exactly as expected. Main engine cutoff is a major milestone marking Starliner's arrival on orbit.
So I don't know why they removed the crew access arm so late, but they do. No.
Continuing to perform well, make its way towards orbit.
No action, Starliner on the LCL. That's just the system coming up into controlling mode.
Outstanding. No action.
Once the main engine is cut off, the next step will be the launch vehicle separation. That's set to occur just short of 15 minutes after launch, when Starliner will separate from the rocket and fly free in space for the first time. Flight Dynamics officer reporting that at this point, Starliner could potentially make an abort landing off the coast of Ireland.
Get cooling.
And they're, again, all continuing well, so we're not expecting to need that abort.
So I should point out that people are a little bit confused why they're saying SECO or MECO. ULA actually defines this as the main engine, the upper stage engines as the main engines. So this is actually considered MECO for them. The booster is BECO, booster engine cutoff. So they consider it a booster and then the main engine, as opposed to It just depends. Most other things that I've heard typically go by the main engines being the ones that lift you off the ground, and then the SECO second stage engines would be what's more common, I think, for most people. But for whatever reason, that's how ULA has always done it. Yeah, slight altitude loss, and that's okay. This is part of that shallow ascent profile.
Just 30 seconds to go. Now until main engine cutoff, marking Starliner's arrival on orbit.
Yeah, apogee is decreasing because remember they kind of lofted up, and then it has to sit there, and it's basically going. You can actually see it's a little bit tilted up to kind of maintain altitude now, but it's kind of does this weird lofted trajectory, and then it kind of shallows out. So I don't know if I actually talk about that in the Dragon versus Starliner video. So if you want more information.
Nominal MECO Starliner.
Nominal MECO.
Good.
And with that nominal MECO call, that's main engine cutoff. We've got good energy, meaning a good velocity for continuing to orbit, and a good plane, meaning Starliner's trajectory is aligned with the International Space Station for rendezvous tomorrow.
And with that, Butch Wilmore and Suni Williams return to orbit. Individually, they are both extremely experienced astronauts.
14:5 to 14:52.
14:52.
They're both very experienced astronauts with a combined total of 489 days in space between them. Starliner is also the third spacecraft that they've launched in. Both have traveled to the International Space Station via space shuttles and Soyuz and are now well on their way to repeating the journey via Starliner. It's also worth noting that Williams' role as pilot marks the first time that a woman has crewed a flight test of an orbital spacecraft.
Just a few seconds ago, you heard Capcom Joshua Kucher calling up to Butch and Suni. With the expected time, Starliner will separate from Centaur at about 14 minutes, 52 seconds into flight. Just under 2 minutes from now, or 1 minute from now.
I want to see the inside views. They even have a zero-G indicator that Suni chose.
All the hard work is done, but we need for Starliner to be flying on its own before it can begin heading towards the International Space Station. There's a slight pause in the action here while Centaur repressurizes and does some attitude control. We'll get into the right orientation to send Centaur on its way and then jettison it and move into the right orientation for the orbital insertion burn, which will come about 31 minutes into flight.
So at this point, people are asking why is it facing down? It doesn't matter anymore. It's no longer, yes, it's burning its ullage and attitude control thrusters, but it could be pointing in any direction, and it's not going to go anywhere. There's no aerodynamic features. It's just completely in space. It's actually not quite in a stable orbit yet, which they're going to do once they release Starliner. It'll orbit raise itself after it detaches from the Centaur. They want the Centaur to be able to burn up.
Seconds until an expected launch vehicle separation.
There we go. Okay, now let's make sure these values stay good and doesn't fire its
Sep confirmed.
thrusters like crazy like that first test flight.
And now that Starliner has separated from this Centaur upper stage, we have a big thank you to our partners at ULA, providing Butch and Suni a smooth ride to space.
That is not the end of today's orbit activity, though. The team will now be getting ready for the orbital insertion burn, which comes 31 minutes after flight. So that's still about 15 minutes.
Okay, so I'm gonna answer your questions. I'm also gonna get out of here pretty soon, but I do want to see the inside view again. I want to see the zero-G indicator. Come on. This data is great. I actually love the data, and everything looks stable and good. but I'd rather see them inside. Which hopefully we get a shot of that here. From Lee Gallagher, thank you so much. Honestly, even if you probably crowdfunded a mission on the suborbital ride, I don't know if I could think of better ways to spend money right now than for myself and my community and my family and friends and charities. I could think of better ways to spend money than sending me on a suborbital flight. But if I had one gifted to me, I would take it. But thank you so much for that sentiment. I do appreciate it. Fingers crossed, it looks like it worked. Michael Maxey, thank you so much for the updates, and sorry that it's late now. American flag, it's definitely some taxpayer money on there, but hey, I mean, this is now 2 dissimilar redundant vehicles capable of taking astronauts to and from the International Space Station.
Is active. You have good targeting for OI.
Good targeting.
Oh, I'm hearing now we might not get inside views, which is confusing and sad. Dang it, Robin. Thank you for sending me to Mars. I'm actually already here. Thank you so much for the Mars Fund. Thank you, William, for the super chat. I really appreciate that. Christopher, for the Mercury flight. We're just sending me all over the solar system now. Thank you so much. Oh, see, here we go. This is perfect from Kaylee saying, Tim's already at Mars. Exactly. This is for the Buy Tim Some Tacos Fund. Now, that's a serious thing we have out here.
To our brethren at ULA.
We're all listening. Go ahead.
Yeah, they've been a member of the family for a long time, but now it's official, and we want to welcome them to human spaceflight.
We all copy all and really appreciate the words.
That's cool.
And Houston Starliner, we are on the tablets and in insertion monitor.
Copy tablets, we're with you, insertion monitor.
So the crew have their tablets out, so no longer using the paper procedures now that the vehicle has stopped moving so quickly.
It's awesome. I'm sure everyone's breathing a sigh of relief here. This is a big, important mission. So, this is from man. Speaking of sighing, big sigh of relief with Boeing under scrutiny. How do you think NASA? Do you think NASA will trust Boeing for future flights? So they are contracted for 6 flights after this, 6 operational flights with Starliner. So yeah, I mean, they obviously trust that. Hopefully, assuming this test flight goes well, that they will be able to fulfill the rest of those 6 contracts. And if they get renewed from there, we'll have to see. Boeing's Dragon spacecraft, SpaceX's Dragon spacecraft was already renewed and is already on their second operational contracts as we speak. So, from Limerick, man, Tim, you convinced me. Doth protest about it too much. My fun for Tim Dobbs to Mars. If you can do it, we can too. After all, we need a guinea pig to go first. Great coverage. Well, thank you so much. And another Tim Dodd, the everyday Mars astronaut. You guys are right. You're already sending me for food on Mars. That is exactly what we're doing here right now. Thank you. And I've been feeding the team. We have a big crew out here that we have to take care of and feed. So all this Mars food is genuinely appreciated, and it's actually going to a real cause. This is a capsule that's had a troubled past, and it finally is flying, and it's looking very good, and everything's going well. I'm going to kind of fly through these, and I'm going to get out of here because we have an insanely busy day today. I can't even begin to tell you. Yannick, you might need to check social media or post here on YouTube. No. So when you're on Mars, does everyday astronaut refer to Mars days or Earth days? When I'm not on Mars, I don't know. But don't forget, every day is different than every day. People are like, it's more like every other day astronaut. It's like, or more like once a month. It's like, no, every day means the everyday person. It's like the average. It's the the everyday situations. It's one word. Every day is different than every day. So I'd still be the everyday astronaut. Even if I'm not going to Mars. But even if I were on another planet with a different time scale, I'd still be an everyday astronaut. It wouldn't be every Mars day or Sol. Yeah. Christopher sent him to Pluto to prove it's a real planet. Jay Redding for the send Tim to Mars, Tim Dodd to Lamars, Iowa. Ooh, I've never been to Lamars, Iowa. Now that I could probably even get there on $5 of electricity, wherever it is in Iowa. True Heartwood, more for the taco fun to eat while on the way to Mars. Well, I appreciate that. Ooh, this is from Wheelbarrow. Oh, this is awesome. I heard Taco Fund. You know me, supporting the team with tacos. Nom, nom, nom. Thank you. Wheelbarrow, you always come through with the Taco Fund. Thank you so much. That is insanely generous. Everyone say thank you. That's probably going to be the last of the yeah. That's probably going to be it. Wheelbarrow, thank you. Everyone, thank you to Wheelbarrow. And thank you to all of you. But also, oh, here we go. Beardo, will you be at Boca Chica? I'm here. Yeah, I'm in Texas, which is why I wasn't at Starliner as I was for the first 2 attempts. Of course, it would launch when I'm not there. Yeah. It's from Darkness Comes Light, some more food for the Mars Fund. Thank you so much. Genuinely. Much appreciated. And Ricardo for becoming a member. You guys are absolutely amazing. Good luck with this is good work, ULA. Godspeed, Butch and Suni. Do good work, Boeing Starliner. Very happy. I'm feeling very good about this launch. I'm very happy that it went off so successfully. We have a lot of stuff here at Everyday Astronaut that we're going to be working on today and specifically. So stay tuned. We have, like I said, a new podcast just came out. So if you haven't checked out Spacewalk, find it wherever you listen to podcasts, at Apple Podcasts or YouTube or Spotify or whatever. But we have a brand new episode out where I did talk a little bit more about Dear Moon, about building rockets in space, and a few other really good questions that you guys had. So I always just kind of answer your questions similar to this, but it's very casual. Yeah, so check that out. We also do have, I'm wearing one of our shirts that's half off in our RUD store. So rapid unscheduled discount. We still do have a few more Aerospikes. I think we're almost sold out of Aerospikes. But we still have a few things. A lot of things are selling out. So get in here while you can. 50% off of everything in our RUDS section, our rapid unscheduled discount section. Get something for you, your friends, your families, whatever you want. But we also have, this is also on sale right now. We have a new heat shield collection, which is, we have, where is the heat shield? Oh wait, it's on the main page. Heat shield, heat shield, heat shield. The heat shield collection includes a new button-up that's heat shields. You'll see them, they're really small and cool. Just a nice little detail. Just a nice, simple dress shirt. Yeah, heat shield tiles there. I think it's super sick. But our heat shield collection is 15% off too. So if there's anything that you want, including our mug, our color-changing mug, our oversized towel, everything in the heat shield water bottle that I carry with me at all times, everydayastronaut.com/shop. That's a fun way to support the channel and get some cool stuff for yourself. But again, check out our podcast, Spacewalk Podcast, for casual updates. I've got a lot of stuff going on today, so yeah, we have to go set up cameras. We're going to have, I have a thing that I have to attend at some point. It's a thing that I have to attend at some point. A certain thing. We'll be doing a pre-launch party this evening, kind of during sunset, so get ready for that. Stay tuned. Make sure you're subscribed, blah, blah, blah. Watch us hang out, and we'll have fun. And then our stream for Starship goes live tonight to be able to bring you guys views throughout the night with our amazing overnight cameras that are absolutely incredible. Last one comes in from James Frost. Join me, guys, tonight and tomorrow for the world's most powerful rocket to ever fly. We'll be launching from 5 miles right out the window here for me, 8 kilometers. We're as close as you can get. We have cameras all over the place. The best tracking assets out here. We are so excited for that launch. We've been working hard for months. So it's the 24 hours for Star in its name, for Starliner, Starship. It is an awesome day. So I'm going to sign off with one big fat congratulations again to Boeing for finally getting humans safe into orbit for the first time since the space shuttle. and on a what looked like a phenomenal flight so far for Butch and Suni. So congrats to Butch and Suni and to NASA. Outstanding mission so far. We'll hope that within about 24 hours we see it dock to the ISS safely. That'll be something fun to tune into and just kind of be paying attention to. And of course, congratulations to ULA for nailing it and looking like they're exactly where they need to be. So awesome. I love it. I love when things go well. Team Space, baby. Awesome seeing this mission finally fly. I've been waiting for this one for a long time. So, okay, everybody. That's going to do it for me. I'm Tim Dodd, the Everyday Astronaut, bringing space down to Earth for everyday people. Stay tuned. We have a lot more coming. So, bye, everybody.